Good afternoon to all, and it's a pleasure to be here. There are so many great people in the audience, like Ajit is there, my ex-colleagues, Mare Saab. We were together in NABARD, he was your ex-chairman. Dr. Uday Saha, who is your faculty right now. Amar Patnaik ji, who is our consultant and from XIMB. And Dr. Gyadendra Mani, our CGM of Gujarat Regional Office. Then so many, actually, I have a friend who we met in Beijing. Actually, she is also there in the audience. And also my DDM of Kheda district and others who are there, and including Nap Kisan MD, who incidentally my wife also. So, and to all the Irmans and the people on the dais. It's a great occasion to be here. And I know when Umakant Das ji has asked me that you should come here, I thought that I should jump to attend this kind of a conferences. Despite having a very busy schedule for us there, I thought of taking a day to come here and do this one. And the panelists, that is the people on this dais, were extremely great, who are practical people. And also that I am extremely thankful to Sri Nagendranath Sinha ji, who is a very erudite and a very learned person whom I have seen, because he is the director of our board also. And Sri Sanjeev Chattaji, NAFED, and Nadella Vijay Lakshmi, who is the Joint Secretary right now, just has taken over this FPO portfolio in Ministry of Agriculture, and all others who are here. And again, once again, a great kind of a beginning has been made, despite the movement almost clocking 20 years. I think this FPC, the original document came somewhere in the first 1 or 2 years of the 2000s. And the Bimal Jalan committee has formed, and they told that now there is a time has come to have some farmer producer companies, and that time everybody was wondering really how the farmer can manage the companies and what is his capability to do it, and which are the areas which he can go around to do the business. Actually, these are all very, maybe that time, very mute questions everybody was trying to figure out. But over a period of time, I think slowly things have started, and NABARD had owned this concept a decade later. I think somewhere in 2010-11, NABARD had taken a decision that now we will go in a big way to promote producer companies and see really how the collectivization is going to work. And the premise on which this entire collectivization started was the dwindling farmland per capita. At one point of a time, if you recall, in 1970, when the banking reform just started, maybe that lead bank scheme and so many things have started happening, and the nationalization has started. If you look into the statistics, I think the average land holding was somewhere around 8 to 10 acres was there. Despite farmers not getting any great loan that time from the banking system, but thing is, they have the capability to raise the money based on the assets they possess, that is the land. But afterwards, the population had grown, fragmentation had happened, and the latest survey says that it's below 1 hectare is the per capita land available, or maybe land holding size, not even per capita. Now you can imagine really what is going to happen in case if another decade or 2 decades, in case if you go at the same trend, when our population reaches maybe 150 crores, which we're all anticipating by around 2040 or 45, and that time probably this land holding will go to maybe around half hectare or even less than that. Already agriculture is unremunerative in many places. Though the production has gone up, the productivity has gone up, but the terms of trade for the farmer and the agricultural produce was not so conducive. And their income levels remained not at a very great level. The latest NSSO survey, if you look into that one, even today, a farm household's income is just 10,480 rupees per month. Imagine if 5 people are there at home, really what kind of things they can do. Now take the case of the other side. Actually, I'm not saying that everybody has been prosperous, but thing is, there's quite a lot of a disparity had happened in the income distribution in the country. Though we are having close to around 45 to 50% of the people depending on the farming, and maybe another 20 to 25 people, a percent of the population dependent on the farming, that is, they are the supporting services in the villages. But this 70% or 65% of the people will have only something around 45% of the share of the national prosperity, while the rest, that 30-35% are having the rest of it. So that is why the income disparity is there. When all these things have been looked into it, actually there should be some kind of a mechanism to see that the agriculture, a new paradigm has to be initiated. I still remember that when I was working as in charge of Delhi Regional Office, I used to meet Sri Sharad Pawarji quite often when he was the Minister of Agriculture. And he was having a tremendous knowledge about the field level agriculture realities. So he always used to tell me one solution really how these small and marginalized farmers can get some kind of a decent income and what are the things. Actually, everybody was clueless. And subsequently, actually, when we started experimenting, somewhere during that period, actually that the small and the marginal farmers has to be collectivized. And the Uberization, the term has been coined much later, but thing is that Uberization was the beginning with these FPCs. The small and marginal farmers have to not the pooling their land to do something. It's not like a kibbutz of Israel or maybe like Russian collective farming. But thing is here the farmer is the owner, farmer is everything, but at the same time we have to bring into some kind of an organization where they work together for a common goal and they produce maybe some kind of a produce which has uniformity, which has marketability and which can add value and which can deliver the income to the farmers. So that is why this new, this farmer collective, that is the FPOs and FPCs have started. And NABARD is the forerunner in this one. We started with our own fund and subsequently government has given a very little of 200 crores at a later time. But still, with our own funds and the 200 crores of Government of India, even before this scheme had come, we had promoted close to 5,000 farmer producers organizations. And we created so many supporting systems. Actually now we could hear maybe quite a lot of problems which everybody was highlighting, actually that we have experienced all those problems. The biggest problem with the farmers collectives is not maybe lack of money, it's a lack of a kind of a collective and a democratic decision making. Because if you just go around the farmer producer organization even today, in the beginning people will come thinking that something great is going to happen, and when that something great is not going to happen overnight, they get disheartened and slowly they start leaving. Now if you look into the FPOs, right now the attrition is very high. Attrition, generally you talk about the employees, but think there is attrition of farmers in the FPOs. I think that nobody talks about. Now this is one area which we have to really work on it very assiduously and with a very focused kind of approach. Otherwise, I think these organizations will have a very limited kind of a thing. If somebody says that her scope, they say that somebody is a Purnaish, somebody says Ardhaish, means somebody is having a half-life and these things. So now, we should not make these organizations Ardhaish, that is, they should not stop functioning in between. Actually, they should continue forever. So now why I am telling all these things is because we have done quite a lot of work, and subsequently when this new 10,000 scheme has come. Actually, quite a lot of input was given by NABARD, but anyhow, government has got their own mechanism as to really how to do it. And as CS was telling, some of the things would have been done in a little better fashion. Now, here I just want to take a leaf out of I Too Had a Dream, the greatest book. I heard about this long back, but I never read it. But after taking over as chairman of NABARD during the pandemic, probably I was the only chairman who was moving around the country, meeting all the chief ministers, going to the field, seeing really how the FPOs are functioning, and really what kind of lessons we can take and how the institutional mechanisms should be formed up to give much more kind of a financial assistance to them. When I was looking into all these things, actually, I feel that there should be something more to be done. And at that time, somebody who was watching me from sidelines, a very big man in Bombay, one day he came to office and told that now, after Kurian, actually I have found one person who is moving around the field, that is yourself. I just want to give you this book. I'm not saying that I'm praising him, but thing is, actually I was so surprised because somebody who is totally unknown to me watching and say really what is happening. And he told the similar kind of a revolution has to be put in place for the farming, because the milk comparatively was a much easy product to commoditize, to aggregate, to do the things, because the moment actually it crosses that 4 or 5 hours after milking, the milk has no value because it gets split. But so somebody has to procure, somebody has to freeze it, somebody has to transport, somebody has to process. And all the things actually Kurian Sahib had seen, and he made it into a kind of a very tremendous and commendable commodity, and which he started with just something like around 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs worth of a turnover to close to around 55,000 crores or maybe more than that. So if that is the case, agriculture as a whole is having a much bigger kind of a thing. The gross value added of agriculture is close to around 40 to 50 lakh crores. But still, it is done in a disaggregated fashion and done by various people. Close to around 140 million people produce this kind of a product. But none of them are aware actually where the value is added, and how the value is added, and who is knocking off the profit. And whether somebody else in the world is looking at the products of India. If that is the case, what is the mechanism to take these products there, and how to comply with all the things which the international audience, international consumers really want. These are all the things which I think were totally unanswered even today. Really, we should have done even much more than this one. So now when you look into the two revolutions that have happened, one was the green revolution, the next one was the milk revolution, and the third revolution I think many of us have not noticed is the horticultural revolution. In 2001, if you take the statistics, Indian horticulture production was hardly anything, and many people are not even eating fruits that time. But today, we are producing almost 325 to 330 million tons of horticultural produce, which is much more than agriculture. But no value chain of a great order was there. As Yogesh Thorat was telling, that if somebody wants to do something with a banana, which everybody tries to produce and it's very easy to do it, but thing is, where is that kind of a mechanism to aggregate that banana and do the things? Now just go to United States or go to South America, which I have visited, and now we feel that the banana is produced in a kind of a factory mode. Actually, all the companies produce banana in such kind of a thing that there is absolutely a strict protocol as to when to give the pesticide and when to give the fertilizer, when to give the irrigation, when to harvest, and what should be the optimum ripening, and how to pack it and ultimately transport it in the cold chain to the ultimate consumer. And India is almost, I think, #1 producer in the world of banana, but thing is, we hardly export anything, and we waste quite a lot, and the consumers in India are also cheated, because the one whosoever is buying at a high price, but the wastage is very high. So now, that is where I think now the time has come for us to organize these farmers into kind of a collectives. it's not one product. I think we require maybe a plethora of product-specific value chains, plethora of product chain FPOs, and the plethora of financial products to just bring them into some kind of a thing. Now that is where many players are working. And here we can say that I am telling you, one player's initiative is not enough and many have to work. Now here, some things which I would like to talk about as to what are the things which we have observed during our decade journey in the FPOs, and what is going to be the future maybe in the next 10, 20 years. Now as CS was telling, already we are having 10,000 FPOs, but out of these 10,000 FPOs, maybe hardly around 2 or 3,000 maybe in the investment grade. Maybe somebody is trying to give the loan. Many are not getting such any kind of a product, loans from the banking system. Because the way the self-help group movement was built, actually the similar fundamentals have to be brought into the FPO movement. It should not be a kind of a top-down approach where somebody says that now I have given a target, you go around and do the things. Where is the social mobilization? Where is the social capital? And how the social capital has to be harnessed to make it into a kind of a financial intermediary. Actually now these are the things which really we have to look into it very seriously. Now take the case of self-help group movement. Actually I am there in that movement from day one. I joined, actually here I just want to go back some 40 years back when I was just graduating from my agriculture. There are 2 or 3 options for me. That is, one was joining my university for the post-graduation. Next one was for IRA, and the third one was in IRMA or IIM. So IRMA was just I think 2 or 3 year old when actually we started graduating that time. And now if I really look into it, in the last 40 years after because I went to IRA and I got recruited in the campus in NABARD, and my journey when I started in 1985, SHG concept was not known. Actually, it was not there at all. In 1987, when that one chief general manager of our bank had gone to Bangkok, and that time, in one of the Apraka seminars, they told that there is an SHG movement which is having these kind of features. He came back and told that this is happening. And that time, the international model, even today, except India, remaining all international models are profit-driven microfinance movement. Companies are formed, now we call them as MFIs, and they form the people into 5 people each into a group, and they give them the money, and they used to charge exorbitantly. Okay, now after regulation it has come down. Otherwise, at one point of a time, they used to charge even up to 96%. That was the interest. Now, that time, NABARD had seen that if you do this kind of a thing, actually, the poor will not only remain poor, they will further be thrown into further poverty. Actually, they will be thrown into an abyss, because tell me one enterprise actually which generates close to 100% profit only to pay the interest and another 100% profit to just keep themselves running. Actually, there is no institution. So that is why when that SHG bank linkage program was designed, it was designed in such a way that 20 people maximum, so that the registrations are not mandated, will be put together into one group, and they will be inculcated, as every speaker after speaker was telling, that there should be capacity building. And capacity building cannot come overnight. Capacity building has to be done with a kind of process, with kind of a planning, and with a kind of a target that everybody in the system has to be trained. So now, when this movement started, actually all these things were planned in such a way that we will first go into convincing the people, that is building the social mobilization is the first one. Then subsequently bringing the social mobilization to the reach of the bankers or the financial institutions. And the bankers should put the money. That is why in the entire world, I think there is no country which can boast of the public deposits are used in a commercial way for the poverty alleviation. That is done through the SHG bank linkage program. Nowhere else in the world public deposits of the banks are given as loans to the poor women or maybe men, whosoever is there in the self-help groups, to just to come out of the poverty. So now the similar kind of a thing has to be done in the FPOs. Unless really this kind of a movement is built with regard with the due capacity building, with the due institutional mechanisms, convincing all the stakeholders, ultimately, as I think Yogesh was telling, that how the social capital has to be transformed into financial capital, just by saying it will not happen. It has to be done. Now, if it has to be done, then we have to do the things. Actually, quite a lot of a kickstarting of the program has to be done in a bigger way, where we have lakhs of bankers. Now, take the case of financing of these FPOs. Maybe at the CEO levels, there may be some kind of appreciation. But thing is, the branch manager is absolutely clueless because he had never seen or heard or any circular was there from their management that FPOs means like this, it has to be done, and this is how they have to be assessed, and this is how actually these farmers collectives will behave, and this is how that governance will be there. And thing is, don't try to look at these FPOs just like any of the Tata and Birla's companies, where you have professionals to run the whole thing. But here, actually, these are all people unlettered, but with a lot of commitment, and they can hire only the professionals for a limited kind of a thing. So if that is the case, we have to do that kind of a capacity building of the farmers. So now, a variety of things have to be done to make this movement much more vibrant. Now here I would like to tell really what are the things which we observed during the course. That we do quite a lot of maybe studies, internal studies. Actually, a midterm study was done by NABARD recently, somewhere in 2020, as to really how these FPOs view and what is the stakeholders' expectation out of this one. Actually, they went around almost around 5 to 6 states to many of the good FPOs, bad FPOs and everyone, and asked the farmers actually really what you feel about. Now, every small and marginal farmer was happy to be brought into this FPO because otherwise he was rudderless. Actually, he was doing things on his own, and he waits for that village aggregator who comes and gives a 30-35% discount from what is quoted in the market. And subsequently, that village aggregator goes to the district level to the state level, and ultimately the chain, actually that entire value chain, almost 50% of the profit is knocked by this chain. Now, these people, they say that after coming into FPOs, they found what is the utility of coming into this kind of a collectivization. First of all, they are all extremely happy with the qualitative inputs the FPOs are delivering at almost 20 to 30% cheaper level. Now, this is the best thing actually that had happened to this one to start with. The next one is the FPOs are giving maybe 5 or 10 rupees more per kilo. I had seen practically in many places than the market. Imagine if a farmer is producing around 10 quintals and if he is getting 5 rupees per kilo extra, I think he is getting close to around 50,000 rupees extra, which probably he would have never imagined in his lifetime. And that is happening. Now the third thing is, many of the farmers, after seeing some of the successful FPs, like Yogesh Thorat's FPO I have seen, really I know really how it is, how the quality and that aggregation can really create wonders. Everybody thinks that we also should do that one. So now I had seen in Gujarat, so many cumin and the soap producers, they also started going. Recently I was in Rajasthan and they are producing jeera, they are producing dates, they are producing pearl millet, they are doing so many other things. Everybody is now gung-ho about this one because the farmers are, in any extension thing, people say that farmers are laggards. Actually, they will not take the things. Actually, it's not true. Farmers are the most innovative kind of a people. If you tell them properly and if you show them really this is how you will make money, they are willing to experiment. And that is how the things are happening. So that our study revealed that Farmers, wherever that FPO is functioning very well, they are extremely happy with the entire thing, but they expect something more. They say that now, actually we have reached this stage, okay, now we are saving maybe 20% on the fertilizers and pesticides, and we are getting maybe another 5 or 10% more on our produce, but thing is it the end of it or should we do something more? Actually now that is where we all have to again do something. Actually now that export orientation is one thing which many other people had never talked about in this one. Indian agricultural produce is one of the best for the domestic consumer, but thing is whether it is good for the international consumer, it's a question to be debated. Why I am again broaching this subject is that India was number one in basmati exports for quite some time, but in the last 3 years we had a severe beating because of pesticides residue in this entire basmati. And now sometime back, I think few months back, I was in Haryana, there in Karnal, which is the basmati belt area, that is the area. So there our DDM along with the APEDA and the exporter they came together, and all the farmers voluntarily, actually they say that now we will form an FPO, we will try to look into it. So now actually all these 4 people, like the stakeholder here is farmer is the principal stakeholder, but thing is others. Exporter has got his own interest, and institutions like NABARD and also the APEDA has got their interest of maybe propagating a better practices. So now all of them came together and they created a protocol for production as to really how the basmati has to be produced, what kind of pesticides have to be used, and what are the traceability levels which are accepted by the customers abroad, and at what stage actually we stop putting any kind of a fertilizer and pesticide so that there will be no traces, and at the end of it really how to harvest properly, how to process them correctly, and how to do that and send it abroad and all those things. So now that good agricultural practice you call are maybe a good protocols for the production, these things have already resulted in that first crop already getting a kind of a attention from the importers in a much better way. Now I feel that this is the way actually we have to look into it. Otherwise, the normal tendency of the Indian farmer is to produce whatever is his marji. Actually, he doesn't ask somebody whether I should produce this or not. He produces according to will and wish, but at the end of the season, he just waits for the market to deliver much higher, and that's not going to happen. That is why they go into losses time and again. So that is why the farmers who otherwise cannot be communicated in the individual fashion, but can be communicated in a group like this through the FPO, they can be given that kind of a protocol for productions. They can be given really what is the market, when is the market and other things. Actually, I still remember that when I was in Karnataka, we have promoted around 100 FPOs. One of the FPOs somewhere in Gulbarga district. Actually, Gulbarga also produces somewhere, then a lot of horticulture, maybe they produce basically red gram, but some areas produce horticulture. A group of farmers, I was so fascinated. After coming to FPO, they started exchanging the information from everyone. They say that they target their production of banana, then maybe other fruits, to major festivals like Ramjan. He said that Ramjan lasts for a month, and whatever you produce, actually there is a tremendous market for that, particularly for the fruits. He said that everything they are tuning to such a level they produce for that Ramjan season and they produce for the other things. And that farmer, actually that one of the farmers, he's a Muslim, and he says that now every year after the entire thing is over and I make money, I call at least some 100 people to my village and give them the free food and take them around the fields. And actually now every farmer is doing that one. Now this is the way I think we have to do it, because unless there is a market sensitiveness to the farmer and the FPO, things cannot work. So now this is the one part. So now our study revealed that now farmers want something more, and that something more has to be done by every player. Now here, that this 10,000 FPOs, implementing agencies, NABARD is there, NCDC is there, SFAC is there, and all those things. Now we are trying to do it, but thing is that CBBOs are the poppies at the ground level. They have to do much more to take this message to the farmers. And also, it's not compel, convince them to, my 30 minutes are over. I think I will take another 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. So, then as I tell that now, we have to convince the farmer to adopt all those things, and definitely it's going to work. And the next part is with regard to the finance. As we were telling that now finance, actually FPO is a very new baby on the road, and absolutely bankers are not having any kind of idea as to really how to finance. Now here again we can take a leaf out of that SHG financing when we started doing. Actually no banker was having any kind of idea. So that time NABARD, after doing quite a lot of maybe field studies and others, went and convinced Dr. Rangarajan, the then governor, and said that now you have to create that kind of a group also can open an account. Before that actually only individual or a company can open an account, no group can open. So first time the group of 20 people can open an account, and the things have started. Now the similar kind of, here actually now that opening of the account is not an issue, but thing is they have to have that 3 balance sheets in case if somebody has to finance, and they have to be profitable. There should not be any kind of a thing. But thing is, an organization like this which requires maybe some kind of a hand holding and crutches to start with, can they have all these things? So that is where we have developed a kind of a matrix, and we are doing a kind of thing. Now that Samunnati is one major player, but NAB Kisan is the bigger player than Samunnati. We have financed close to 850 FPOs so far, and with a substantial kind of a money put into this one. And the experience is reasonably good. I am not saying it is very hunky-dory. And what are the major problems which we have seen? Because NABARD has got that advantage of, one is being a promoter, being a refinancer, being a capacity builder, and at the same time our subsidiary being the direct financier. Actually we have that advantage of looking at really what are the issues. Now the issues are, the moment a little bit money is seen, the farmer and the FPOs will have a kind of a urge to create a very, very big kind of a structure. And they say that they will go for a very big infrastructure of a godown, a processing machines, and this thing, that thing, cold storages, and all those things. Now actually, I was hearing some time back that somewhere in one state, without having any horticultural produce around, but this FPO wants to go for a ripening chamber. Now imagine really what is the infructuousness of such kind of thing. So now, any investment that is infructuous is going to cost very heavily to the FPO, because they cannot come out of this rut. It's like that Bombay taximeter. Actually, you should not sit in the taxi, but otherwise once you sit, in case if there is a traffic jam, that the meter chalta hi rehta hai. So same thing for the bank. The moment you take the loan, till the time you are not my customer, actually we are good friends, because absolutely we have no obligations to each. The moment you become my customer and take maybe 1 or 2 crores, and if I charge maybe 10, 20%, whatever be the thing, even if I charge 10%, at the end of the year you have to pay 1 crore 10 lakhs. And by next year, if you don't pay, probably you may have to pay 2 crores, because maybe the penalties, maybe this, that, and all, so many things will happen. So now, whenever they have to do the things, actually they have to look into their capability, and they have to look into really where such kind of a processing can be done on a customized basis till they attain a scale, and afterwards actually they should start investing. So that is where actually they require professional managers to run. Now the third thing which we have seen is the governance aspect. Governance is something which you just can't import. Actually governance that standards have to be developed. Now in case of corporates, actually over a period of 100 or 200 years, they developed the governance standards. Despite that, so many great companies which were great at one point of a time have gone to dogs because of poor governance. Now you can see that many of the companies, whether it's in India and abroad. But now what about the small farmers? Actually now these farmers actually they don't have much of that knowledge really what exactly is running a board, what are the compliances, what is meant by the governance standards and what are the things. So now all these things if we have to do it, there should be a professional manager to guide the board, to make the organization that kind of a very structured kind of a system. So now, for that, as all the previous speakers were telling, that we should have professionals, maybe from IRMA or from other management institutions also, they should be there. But during my visits to some of the FPOs, I had seen at least in 4 or 5 places, IRMANs were there as the CEOs, and 1 or 2 of them already over a period of 3 years have attained a business level of around 10 crores. That particular FPO. Though that means actually 10 crores in case if it is your turnover, probably at least 20 to 25% will be your profit. So if that is the case, I think this particular organization might be doing very well and they may be paying good amount of money to that thing also. So now, the newcomers or maybe the people right now in the IRMA, I think you have to take FPO as a kind of a nation building activity. Actually now I am not saying that now FPO is not a kind of a maybe an employment. You try to make it as a nation building activity and you are going to create another Amul kind of a revolution in the entire country. There may not be a single brand of Amul, but the agriculture as a whole will get revolutionized into a kind of a systematic Amul way of line. So that is where, when we are thinking by 2030, 2040, because every time I ask our people, what will be the balance sheet size of NABARD, maybe after some time. Actually, everybody has got a guesswork. But now here I can say that every organization can grow better and faster if you have a proper planning, proper products, proper governance. NABARD, which started the first balance sheet of 4,000 crores, and last year we have added only 6.54 lakh crores only to that 4,000 crores. We have reached 6.58 lakh crores. Now imagine that now any organization can grow, including FPOs, provided you have a kind of a thing. And the next one, actually I will say that now FPOs as a, maybe so many FPOs, everybody has having such kind of things also may be difficult. So actually you should have to have a federation. Now the 3 federations which we are seeing are basically informal, came out of the necessity, but thing is there can be a structure for all these things. Actually Yogesh Thoratji, when he was there, actually I happened to be in Pune and I was going to Buchkawadi watershed which NABARD had done, and in between they told actually that they have it is in the same place, that now that new farm laws have given them a freedom to open their own market. It's on the electronic trading platform. Now I can say that day I started that one and it was amazing. Actually, I quote this one at many places. That day, the Lasalgaon Mandi of Nashik, the price of onion quoted was 10 rupees per kilo. When we just started that entire thing, that operations, and the quote started coming, that in the next 30 minutes, actually the average price, actually that particular lot which was put on auction, got close to around 18 rupees. Now imagine 80, how much percentage it is? 10 rupees to 18 rupees. Actually, no, you just can't imagine that 80% will be just happening in front of your eyes because you made a little bit of a tweaking in the marketing. Actually, instead of taking bulk to Lasalgaon and maybe subject to the middleman, here you do it. Actually, the other thing what they have done that maybe a small grading machine they have brought it, so that onion was graded from small to big to this much of a size. So this size is purchased by Taj Hotel at 50 rupees and somebody small size, somebody will buy at 2 rupees. But at the end of it, the farmer lot will get 80% or 90% more, and that is the service which really we can ensure to the farmers. So ultimately, the farmers in the FPOs, they look for this kind of a thing, for a great service, for democratic governance, for export orientation, for proper pricing, and at the end of it, the scalability of their operations. Because nobody wants to stay at the same place. Everybody wants to improve upon. If that is the case, that scalability is the one. So now, all these things can happen in case if that particular FPO or this federation or the CBBOs or maybe any of the institutions which are working are going to pass on that kind of information continuously to the farmers. This is how we have to do it, and this is how the markets are going to behave, and this is going to be the price, and this is going to be the future, because now really how the particular product is going to behave depending on the international scenario. And then actually they are going to get quite a lot of a benefit. I am extremely upbeat about this one. Why? Because I wear many hats. Not only as a chairman NABARD, actually that I am chairman of NAB Ventures, so where our venture capital funded kind of a new ventures are already encashing from the FPOs. They are already getting maybe the produce from the FPOs and trying to scale it up, and they are giving a lot of services. Then we have the NAB Samrakshan. Actually that ministry was telling that NAB Samrakshan Trustee Private Limited, first time in in the entire world, I think wherever at least I have gone, I have not seen. A credit guarantee fund was never there for the agriculture. You have a CGT MSC for the MSMEs, for maybe so many things, but agriculture never the credit guarantee fund was there. But first time that credit guarantee fund has been institutionalized. NABARD has already started, and the entire software, everything is getting ready. We are going to onboard most of the FPOs. And with this, actually the FPO which is borrowing up to 1 crore can get the credit guarantee up to 75%. And the one who takes up to 2 crores will get up to 85%, and this is 75%. And this is going to revolutionize the entire credit and the lending practices of the banks. Because as speaker after speaker was telling that actually the bankers are not convinced. Actually now the bankers will get convinced as there is a credit guarantee for this one, and already maybe the system really how to finance the FPOs, how the protocols have to be done, all these things are also being worked out. If that is the case with this NAB Samrakshan already in place and the credit guarantee in place, definitely it's going to be a new kind of a horizons are being opened for the maybe credit part. Then the next one is actually that I'm also chairman of NAB Cons, our consultancy organization, which does consultancy for many of the projects, but at the same time it is also a CBB also. Actually many states, actually now our CEO was very excited the other day when I met him in Jaisalmer. He was telling that our CBBO's activity is really picking up. I think they got in 4 or 5 states and they are doing so well, so now that is there. And ultimately, though I am not chairman of NAB Kisan, but it is our subsidiary, our NAB Kisan is exclusively focused on FPO financing, and today they have unstinted support from not only NABARD but from the many of the people who are associated with that, the way the things are happening. So now, one NAB Kisan is not enough. Actually there should be a limitation. Now the entire agriculture, in case if you are giving 16.5 lakh crores as the credit for the agriculture for the production process, and maybe subsequent to that one, actually really you require to make minimum maybe 50,000 to 1 lakh crores as the value chain financing, which so far nobody had even done any kind of a scoping study. So if that is the level even to start with, maybe just some kind of a wild guesstimate is around 1 lakh crore. This has to be there from various institutions which are there in this one. And so now the time has come for the institutions, particularly the financial institutions, to come in a big way, to assess the whole thing, and if they want anything actually more, actually for doing this kind of financing, they should specify. Without that, actually rejecting the application has no meaning. People have to specify. And at the same time, there should be institutions. Now, with all these things have to be backed by some kind of empirical research. Maybe institutions like IRMA, XIMB, or maybe BIRD, APMAS, or for that matter, there are a plethora of institutions. All of them should really give the critical and the real feedback, which will go into the product design, product pricing, and ultimately delivery. So now all these things, in case if they have to happen, we need to have that kind of a critical inputs from various academic institutions. So I wish that these things will happen. And apart from this, NABARD had promoted agri incubation centers in 7 places. And they are also now doing something great. Actually, that FPOs, after producing their raw product, it has to be converted into a kind of a value-added product. These incubation centers are helping them. And that is again another layer of the value addition. So now, always Charles Dickens says that good times and bad times. Actually, that at any point of a time, all times are great. In case if you have an open mind and you keep your eyes wide open, I think opportunities are unlimited. And I really feel that now we have to invoke the spirit of Dr. Kurian as to how he created this, maybe the milk revolution, without having any kind of a government maybe breathing on their neck. The FPO movement also is going to be such kind of a thing, and really it will function, it will succeed. And in the next few decades, when India is going to be maybe $10 trillion economy, agriculture will have a very important place, and that important place will come only when they are organized into some kind of a collectives. And these collectives, today we call them FPOs, today we don't know how they will call, but definitely there is a scope and there is a belief, and I am a firm believer that आने वाला कल बहुत सुनहरा होगा. धन्यवाद.